Salutations, it's DBWhatIfs, bringing you guys my first ever What If. This is part 1 of an ongoing series called What If Goku Always Wore Weighted Clothing? I don't mean always, he would of course take them off for combat. Just like against Tien in the 23rd Martial Arts Tournament. I'm going to change the type of clothing Goku wore when he was an infant in the liquid chamber that he was in on planet Vegeta. He wore the original Saiyan armor that he was given, but he also had weighted bands around his arms and legs, each weighing 2.5 pounds, equaling out to about 10 pounds, easily doubling his weight. The rest of planet Vegeta's destruction would go the same as before, with Goku being sent off to Earth and Frieza blowing it up. Let's start this story off with Goku arriving on Earth. Grandpa Gohan would hear a loud explosion out somewhere on Mount Paozu. He would go investigate it and find Goku's space pod still smoking with the door opened. There was a baby lying down on the ground, just mere feet away from the pod, screaming and crying. Grandpa Gohan noticed the strange clothes as he went to pick up the boy. The boy was heavier than Gohan had expected, causing Grandpa Gohan to almost fall forwards due to the surprise of the weight. Gohan would still take Goku home, and of course name him Goku. Goku would still be a rambunctious child. When Gohan would try to take the weighted bands off of Goku, Goku would snap at Grandpa Gohan, signaling that he didn't want the bands to be taken off. Eventually, Goku would have fallen and hit his head like in the original, but this time the result was more devastating due to the extra weight. Goku was in a coma for a longer amount of time, but eventually would recover. With that one fall, Goku's memory was wiped clean. He was then transformed into the good-natured boy that we all know and love. Goku asked Grandpa Gohan about the bands and their meaning. Gohan had simply just stated that they were always with him. Grandpa Gohan saw no need to fret Goku about his origins, so he glossed over it. The bands had gotten tight on Goku as he grew. Goku then asks if he could have some new bands to replace them. Grandpa Gohan decides to take a trip to the nearest city and purchases some bands from a store and hands them to the young Goku as a gift. Goku noticed that the bands weren't as dense or heavy as the ones he had as a kid. Grandpa Gohan then had the idea to add metal to the bands to increase the weight of each band to 15 pounds each. He laughed heartily and said, "This is just like weight training." Young Goku is hardly able to stand with a massive increase of weight totaling to an extra 60 pounds, doubling his weight, repeats in confusion. "Weight training?" Grandpa Gohan nodded and said, "Yes, you would wear weights or weighted clothing to become stronger. It limits your movement speed, and with the bands on your arms and legs, you'll be training them slowly with everyday motions." Goku got excited at the aspect of becoming stronger like his grandpa. So Goku began training and doing everything while wearing these weights that had always been a part of his life. Unfortunately, one day, Goku had looked up at the moon, transforming into an Uzuru. Now, with the Uzuru transformation, it would be a 10 times multiplier. At the beginning of Dragon Ball, Goku's power level was around 10, but we're not quite there yet. He is still younger, but has been doing more intensive training thanks to the weighted bands. So at this point, his power level would probably be around 25 surprisingly, but unfortunately that would mean his power level in his Uzuru form would be 250. Grandpa Gohan's power level is only 125, exactly half that of the Uzuru. Eventually though, the night was over, and Grandpa Gohan was safe. There Goku lied, his clothes gone, his bands broken, and a mess of trees left in his path. Gohan picked Goku up, found and fixed his bands, and then warned Goku about a monster that comes at night during a full moon. So never go outside during a full moon and look directly at it, knowing that the moon was the source of the transformation. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be enough to save Gohan the second time Goku unfortunately happened to look up at the moon. Grandpa Gohan was crushed by the Uzuru and perished. We now make our way to the first events of Dragon Ball. Goku's power level would now be around 40. He was able to recover his bands after the Uzuru event, but never to find his grandpa. Goku went down to the lake to catch some fish with his tail. He managed to catch a huge fish and began bringing it back home when all of a sudden, a blue car hits Goku on the mountain path, causing Goku to fall over and drop his fish. The woman exits her vehicle exclaiming, "I killed him, I didn't mean to. He got in the way. Hey, are you okay?" Goku quickly runs over and picks up the woman's car in frustration, thinking it to be a monster. This is an easier task for Goku as he tosses it aside effortlessly, and the woman gets scared by this monster before her, being able to withstand getting hit by a car and able to pick it up above his head. The woman pulls out her weapon and fires at Goku, hitting him directly in the head. Goku covers his head and yells out, "Ow, what was that for?" The woman realizes that the boy is unfazed even by bullets. She quickly apologizes, and after realizing that Goku is in fact just a boy, albeit a strong boy with an odd tail, she makes her way over to Goku and introduces herself as Bulma. Goku then laughs at her name and says it's a funny name, and that his name is Goku. He asks where her tail is, and she says that she doesn't have a tail. Goku asks if she's even human. She looks weak, and she doesn't even have a tail. Bulma yells out saying, "That's because I'm a girl, but like I said before, humans don't normally have tails." Goku said, "I suppose that's true. My grandpa didn't have a tail." Bulma quickly interjected and said, "See, it isn't normal." Goku then dismisses it and laughs, saying, "Well, my grandpa was a mighty odd fellow though, haha." Bulma sighs and then checks a device. Goku asks, "What is that?" Bulma waves at him dismissively before Goku invites her over for dinner. Bulma realizes her device is telling her to go that way anyway, so she agrees. Once there, Goku sets the giant fish down and enters his small hut. Bulma looks at her device once more, elated to see the device responding to Goku's hut. Bulma runs inside after Goku and sees a small orange ball with 4 red stars on it. She quickly picks it up, yelling, "This is it! This is the Dragon Ball I've been looking for!" Goku looks up at her and yells out, "Hey, stop! That's my grandpa! Put him down!" Bulma looks quizzically at Goku and says, "These aren't grandpa's, kid. This is a Dragon Ball. There are 7 of these scattered all across the world. Once you collect them all, you can have any wish you want granted." Goku said, "No way." Bulma then pulled out 2 more orange spheres and said, "You see?" Goku looked at them with wonder as he said, "Whoa, you have 2 grandpas?" Bulma groaned and said, "No, these are Dragon Balls, not grandpas. I'm trying to collect all 7. Were you even listening earlier?" Goku nodded with a smile. Bulma then said, "Sorry, kid, but I need to borrow this for my wish." Goku then said, "What? No, you can forget it." Bulma then coyly smiled and said, "Come on, I'll give you a little peek," she said seductively while lifting her pink skirt up slightly. Goku then said, "What do I care about seeing your dirty old fanny?" Bulma got angry and yelled, "It is not dirty." Bulma then had an idea. She said, "Hey, why don't you come with me? I could use some help getting all of the balls, and that way you don't have to be apart from your ball." Goku thought about this for a while before nodding and saying, "Sure, just let me grab my stuff, but don't try anything funny. This is my ball, and I am not letting you have it." Bulma smiled and said, "No, of course, I'll be right outside." Goku grabs his power pole, ensures his bands are on tight, and he runs outside where Bulma stood. "I'm ready," Goku shouted. Bulma said, "Fantastic, now stand back," she said as she threw a small pill-shaped object at the ground, and out popped a motorcycle. Goku, in shock, asked, "How did you do that? Was that magic?" Bulma laughed and said, "No, silly. That's called a dino capsule. They hold large objects so it's easier to transport." Bulma got on her motorcycle and got it started up. Goku was startled by the noise but got on behind her. Bulma said, "Hang on tight." Goku then shouted at the sudden boost of speed the motorcycle began going. Bulma laughed to herself as Goku's reactions were quite humorous to her. Eventually, Bulma was going extremely fast and happened to drive over a hill, causing the bike to launch into the air with her and Goku on it. Bulma screamed while Goku began laughing. Bulma managed to land the bike safely on the ground, and Goku exclaimed, "Again! Again!" Bulma then excused herself and said, "Sorry, I think I need to take a little pit stop after that." Goku then said, "Can I come?" not understanding the meaning of the term. Bulma shouted, "No, you may not," as she went behind a rock. Goku then laid down on the motorcycle waiting for Bulma to return, but almost immediately after Bulma's screaming could be heard from where she had gone over. Goku instinctively ran over to her and saw a pterodactyl standing there, holding Bulma with his taloned feet. Bulma remained screaming as Goku asked what was going on. The pterodactyl assured Goku that they were friends and that he should stand still as he wraps a rope around Goku, tying him to a tree. Goku allows him amidst the confusion, and the pterodactyl takes off. Goku looks up as Bulma shouts out for help. Goku then realizes that Bulma may need help and that the pterodactyl did not in fact know her. Goku uses his tail to untie himself from the tree and tries to jump to the pterodactyl, but he was nowhere near getting close to the pterodactyl, who was now slowly starting to get away. Goku then remembered the hill and the motorcycle, and he got on it trying to figure out how to get it to move. Luckily, Bulma had left it running, and Goku twisted the handle, causing it to move. He made it go super fast over a hill, causing the motorcycle to launch once more, bringing himself close to the pterodactyl in the air. The pterodactyl was frightened as Goku got on the front of the motorcycle and almost grabbed the pterodactyl, but the motorcycle began descending. The pterodactyl had a sigh of relief until Goku jumped from it. Being too heavy, he fell back down and landed back on the motorcycle. Goku quickly took off his weighted bands, left them attached to the motorcycle, and jumped once more easily, making it onto the pterodactyl's back, as Goku punched the pterodactyl in the back of the head, causing him to lose consciousness. Bulma, Goku, and the pterodactyl began falling as Goku quickly caught Bulma, who was screaming, and pulled out his power pole in hopes to break their fall. He yelled out, "Power pole extend!" The red pole that he had brought with him began to grow rapidly in size, while Goku was holding onto it, and Bulma, the pole got lodged into the side of the mountain, securing it in place. Their fall was almost suddenly brought to a halt thanks to the power pole, and Bulma ceased her screaming only to look down and see she no longer needed that pit stop. She embarrassingly yelled out, "Get us down from here!" Goku retracted the power pole, bringing them closer to the side of the mountain, where he and Bulma slowly scaled down the short mountain. Goku tracked down the motorcycle and realized it was broken, but reclaimed his bands. Bulma easily pulled out another motorcycle, and Goku hopped on. They continued their journey until nightfall, hence starting a beautiful friendship on a magical journey to find the Dragon Balls. Bulma suggests they stop here for the night. Goku nods as the motorcycle comes to a halt. Bulma and Goku get off of the motorcycle, and Bulma says, "Stand back, kid," as she throws another capsule, causing a puff of smoke to kick up. "Whoa!" Goku exclaims. The smoke dissipates and reveals a spherical-looking house. Goku stood in shock as he shouted out, "Are you a witch?" Bulma teasingly says, "Something like that." As Bulma enters the house, she turns on the lights, which amazes Goku, as he had never seen electricity in action before. He asked, "Hey, how did you get the sun inside?" Bulma sighs and says, "It's electricity, Goku, I swear. It's like you're from the Stone Age." Bulma then realizes that Goku smells foul. She covers her nose and says, "Yuck! Goku, you need a bath." Goku laughs and says, "What's a bath? Is that something you can eat?" Bulma gags and says, "You've got to be joking, kid. Ugh, didn't your grandpa ever teach you about this?" Goku thinks for a moment before saying, "I think maybe." Bulma sighs once more and escorts Goku over to the bathroom. As Goku begins taking off his clothes, Bulma spoke up, "What are those bands around your arms and legs?" Goku happily says, "Oh, they're my weights. Grandpa always said that they help me become stronger." Bulma then thought about it as she watched Goku take off the weights. "You took those off while the pterodactyl had me, and it made you jump higher, right?" Goku laughed and said, "Sure did." Bulma then asked, "Why don't you just wear weighted shirts and pants instead of those ratty old bands?" Goku then said, "I don't know. I didn't know shirts could come with that function. How strange." Bulma says, "Yeah, I could even make you some. A shame I didn't bring a lab with me." Goku asks, "What's a lab?" Bulma said, "Forget it. Now take off that silly tail and hop in the bath." Goku then said, "I can't take off my tail." Bulma quizzically asked, "Why not?" Goku said, "It's attached to me, see?" Goku then wiggled it about. Bulma shrieked and said, "I didn't seriously think it was real. I just thought it was a fashion thing." Goku laughed and said, "Fashion thing? What are you talking about?" Bulma sat back and started deeply contemplating If all boys had a tail. Goku then finished up bathing as he sat in front and marveled at the television. Bulma finished showering peacefully. Once she had exited the bathroom, she offered Goku some dinner. Goku looked at the bread and tea being offered and said, "That stuff looks yucky. I'm going to find my own stuff to eat." Bulma chuckled and said, "Suit yourself. Just don't get yourself hurt." Goku put back on his bands and went outside looking for something to eat. Before getting too far, Goku saw a giant millipede and quickly captured it. He looked overhead and noticed a giant bird-like creature soaring through the sky. Goku licked his lips and said, Bird is always yummy," as he ran in the direction of the bird. When he got to the area where the bird had been flying, he saw it had landed. It was hard and made of metal. He hit it a couple times with his power pole and said, "That's strange, I can't eat this." Not knowing what a plane was, he kept hitting it. This plane obviously belonging to the Pilaf gang, but they had left before Goku noticed them, but suddenly a pack of wolves started attacking. Goku, keeping his bands on, managed to attack the wolves and took them all out. Goku then picked up one and draped it over his shoulder, returning to the house. "Bulma, I'm home!" shouted Goku as she opened the door and showed off his prizes. The millipede and the dead wolf. Bulma shrieked and said, "That is so disgusting, take that outside." Goku looked at Bulma confused but then said, "Ha, suit yourself." Goku started a fire and began cooking the wolf and millipede. As Goku finished his meal, Bulma quickly said, "You have to sleep on the floor. I get the bed." Goku looked at her confused and said, "But there is plenty of room for both of us there." Bulma said, "It's not appropriate you being a boy and me being a girl." Goku turned his head to the side and asked, "Why?" Bulma turned red and said, "Oh, forget it." Goku then settled on the floor and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Goku woke up before Bulma and saw that Bulma was still asleep. Goku wandered over to her and climbed onto the bed. Goku asked to himself quietly, "How is this not appropriate? I can just rest my head right here," Goku said as he rested his head on Bulma's pelvis. Goku looked confused for a moment and removed Bulma's undergarments. He yelled out, Bulma, your balls are gone." Bulma quickly awoke frightened. She quickly checked the location where the Dragon Balls were and opened the pouch that contained them. Goku still looked scared as Bulma breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Don't give me a heart attack, Goku. You must have had a bad dream." Goku still maintained a frightened appearance. Goku ran outside and breathed in the fresh air and said, Training time." Goku ran over to a giant boulder, picked it up, and then crushed it in between his hands. He then went over to another boulder and picked it up, only to hear a voice shout out, "Please put me down, don't hurt me." Goku looked above his head to realize that it was not a boulder, but in fact a giant turtle. Goku sat the turtle down and shouted for Bulma to come out and take a look. Bulma noticed the turtle and asked, "What's a turtle doing here? Isn't it a little far from the sea?" The turtle then spoke up, "Oh yes, haha, I got a little lost. I'm trying to make my way back." Bulma then said, "Well, we're awfully far from the ocean. I wish there was something we could do to help." Goku said, "Hey, I know, why don't we take him to the ocean?" Bulma, surprised, said, "Goku, we can't just do that. We're on an adventure, remember?" Goku said, "But you said that you wish we could help, and here I am, offering." The turtle said, "Really? You'd take me? I would be so grateful." Bulma says, "Fine, go ahead and take him. I'm not going though." Goku says, "Fine, suit yourself." As he picks up the turtle once more and heads off towards the sea. Bulma groans and looks around, realizing there are monsters and dinosaurs roaming about. She quickly gets on her motorcycle, shouting out, Wait! Goku! Wait for me!" The turtle says, "I think we should wait for her. She scares me." Goku stops and puts the turtle down and Bulma rides up alongside Goku. Goku asks sarcastically, "Don't you have to do your hair or something?" Bulma snarls and says, "Ugh, whatever. I just didn't want you to get lost. That's it." Goku says, Yeah, as he picks up the turtle and they continue towards the sea. After a while with Goku running and Bulma driving the motorcycle, a giant bear wielding a sword and armor approached them. He gruffly says, "Hand over that turtle and no one gets hurt," Bulma demands. The turtle says shakily, No, please. I swear I don't taste good." Goku said, "You can forget it." The bear thief snarls and says, "That's fine. I can settle for 2 humans and a turtle. Have it your way." Bulma shouts out, "Goku, stop this nonsense." Goku sets the turtle down, and then quickly goes up to the bear thief and punches him in the stomach. The bear thief groans in pain, but manages to walk backwards a bit before slashing his sword around. Goku manages to dodge them, and manages to land an uppercut on the bear thief, knocking him out all while still wearing his weighted bands. The turtle said elated, "Whoa, you really are strong." Bulma's mouth had dropped as she stated, "No kidding. You're like a monster kid." Goku laughs heartily before saying, "Come on, we don't have all day." As he picks up the turtle and the 3 continue their way to the sea. Eventually, they make it. Goku stares in disbelief at the sight before him. Sand and blue waters that stretch as far as the eye could see. Goku said, "Whoa," as he slowly sat the turtle down near the edge of the sea. The turtle gratefully said, "Tell you what, you guys wait right here. I have a present for you." Bulma said, "What could a turtle possibly give us?" The turtle laughs and says, "Wait right there, you'll see." Goku excitedly says, "Sure thing." Goku then begins playing in the sand as Bulma crouches down into the sand, still in her pajamas. After a long period of time, Bulma stated, "I don't think he's coming back." Goku looked at Bulma quizzically before saying, "He said he would. I'm choosing to believe in him." Immediately after those words were spoken, a figure appeared over the horizon coming closer to them. Bulma shouted out, "Hey look, what's that?" Goku peered over the horizon and noticed it was the turtle, carrying someone on his back. Eventually, the turtle and the person on the turtle's back made it onto shore. "Who is that?" Bulma asked. The person in question appeared to be an older man, short, with a bald head and sunglasses, wearing a turtle shell. The man spoke up, "Hey, which one of you guys helped my turtle here?" The turtle said it was the boy. The man looked over at Goku and said, "Why, thank you. My name is Master Roshi. Thank you for bringing my turtle back to me." Goku laughs and says, "No worries." Master Roshi then said, "Now, as for your reward, I give you the immortal phoenix." Goku and Bulma looked around confused, but with great anticipation. Master Roshi remained standing as nothing continued to occur. Master Roshi grumbled and said, "That's weird." The turtle then spoke up, "Remember the phoenix passed away after eating some contaminated bird seed." Master Roshi scratched his beard and said, "Ah, that's right. Then, flying nimbus." Suddenly, a yellow cloud descends from the sky and stops just in front of Master Roshi. Goku, astonished, said, "Whoa!" Master Roshi then said, "This here is the flying nimbus. Only those pure of heart can ride this here cloud." Master Roshi then jumped onto the cloud, but immediately fell through and fell in the sand with a plop. "Ah, ow, ow," Master Roshi exclaimed. Bulma said, "Pure of heart, huh?" The turtle spoke up, "Master, you've been naughty." Master Roshi exclaimed once more, "Pipe down, will ya?" Goku then happily jumps on top of the cloud and lands on it. Goku said aloud, "Amazing." Goku then started soaring through the skies above the beach on top of the golden flying nimbus. "Wahoo!" Goku exclaimed as he soared through the skies. Master Roshi laughed as Goku returned to the ground and said, "The flying nimbus is yours. Please be good to it." Goku smiled and said, "Of course, sir." Bulma then asked, Hey, what about me? Don't I get a reward?" Master Roshi looked over at the turtle and said, "Did the girl help you as well?" The turtle then spoke up and said, "No, she didn't, just the boy." Bulma then shouted, "What do you know, turtle?" Suddenly, Bulma noticed a Dragon Ball hanging around Master Roshi's neck as a necklace. Bulma excitedly exclaims, That, I want that." Master Roshi, startled at the sudden outburst from the girl, took a step back and looked down at his necklace and said, "Oh, this old thing? I've had this thing forever. Maybe I'd be willing to part with it. If you show me, hehehe. Master Roshi began blushing as blood slowly dripped out from his nose. Bulma looked at him in horror as she realized what this entailed. She then gripped her pajamas tightly and said to herself, "For the Dragon Ball." She then lifted her pajamas up, exposing her lower half. Master Roshi had a massive nosebleed and gave the ball to Bulma without hesitation. The turtle spoke up and said, "I am so ashamed of you, Master. That is why you couldn't ride the flying Nimbus." Master Roshi, seemingly unfazed, said, "I can now die happy." Bulma said, "With this cloud thingy, we should be able to get to where we need to go a lot faster." Bulma attempted to climb onto the flying Nimbus, but fell right through. "Oof," Bulma said as she hit the ground. Goku chuckled and said, "Guess you're not pure of heart, huh?" Bulma groaned and said, "Oh, be quiet." Bulma and Goku began heading back to their capsule house, Bulma on her motorcycle and Goku on the flying Nimbus. Once they had returned, Bulma noticed her undergarments were still on the floor. She hadn't been wearing any the whole time. She asked Goku about it, and Goku, oblivious to the situation, admitted to doing that first thing that morning. Bulma then began to throw a ton of household items at Goku in a fit of rage. Goku ran out of the house in a hurry as the day began to wrap up. Bulma puts their capsule house back into its capsule and brings out her motorcycle and tells Goku, "Okay, our next ball is only hundreds of miles in that direction." Goku said, "Sure. A shame you can't ride my flying Nimbus. That would make traveling a lot faster." Bulma says, "I don't want to ride your silly little cloud anyway." And with that, they made their way to Aru village. After a while of traveling, they finally made it to the village and noticed that no one was around. The windows on the houses were barricaded up, and the town was quiet. Goku asked, "Where is everybody?" "Hello," Bulma said. "That's strange. It's almost as if everyone just got up and left this town no more than minutes before we arrived." Goku then busted down a door and was immediately met with an axe, almost cutting him in two. Goku yelled out, "Whoa!" as he barely managed to sidestep the swing of the axe. Bulma shouted out, "Whoa, whoa, wait, we're not intruders." An old man spoke up and asked, "You guys aren't intruders?" Bulma hurriedly shook her hands and said, "No, no. What is going on here anyway?" Goku recovers from the entire ordeal and shouts at the old man, "Why did you try to hit me?" The old man quickly apologizes and says, "I'm sorry. You guys aren't with Oolong?" Bulma repeated, "Oolong? No, I've never heard of him." The old man sighs and says, My deepest, most sincerest apologies. Please, sit. Bulma and Goku take a seat at the man's table as a young girl appears. He says, "My name is Sherman, and this here is my daughter Pokawatha." She sat up and said, "Hello." Sherman continued, "A demon named Oolong has been coming to our village and taking our daughters. There's nothing we can do to stop him. He's a wicked, evil shapeshifter." Sherman exits his house briefly and lets the town know that it's safe for them to come out. Bulma notices the radar is beeping over at an older woman. Bulma asks her, "Do you happen to have an orange ball with red stars on it?" The older woman, surprised as to how she knew, spoke quickly. "Why, yes. It's an old family heirloom." Bulma excitedly asked, "May we have it?" The old lady said, "If you can get rid of Oolong and save the daughters of this village, then yes, you may, but only after Oolong is handled." Goku says, "Easy. I can handle that, no problem." A few townsfolk gasped as they heard Goku sound so sure of himself. Sherman quickly interjected and said, "Well, you seem confident, but please be careful. He is supposed to take my daughter Pokawatha for marriage this afternoon." Bulma then said, "Oh, leave that to us. We'll formulate a plan." After a while, Pokawatha had given her clothes to Goku to wear for him to look like her. Bulma then said, "Okay, Goku, you're going to pretend to be Pokawatha. When Oolong comes for you, follow him and find where he took the other girls. When you find them, take Oolong out and bring the girls back to safety." The villagers went to hide when suddenly a giant red ogre appeared holding a bouquet of flowers. Goku turned away from the giant red ogre, hoping to dispel any disbelief that he is not Pokawatha. The ogre then spoke, "Hey, Pokawatha, ready to get married?" Goku tried sounding like a girl. Oh, well, Oolong then said, Oh? Is this form not to your liking? Maybe something more like this. Suddenly, Oolong turned into a human man with a suit and tie. Bulma instantly was intrigued by the man and said, Hey, you can have me. Oolong looked over at Bulma and realized that she was definitely more developed than Pakawatha and took an interest, but seemingly dissuaded because of his love for Pakawatha. Oolong looked over at Pakawatha and noticed her urinating while standing. Oolong quizzically wandered over to the front of Pakawatha and realized that she was actually a he. Oolong freaked out and took a step back upon realizing. Goku realized that his cover was blown and took off the disguise. Finally, that get-up was getting annoying, said Goku. Oolong, realizing he was tricked, decided to transform into a giant robot holding hot broth and a pair of chopsticks. He said, Get ready to fight. I'll cook you up. Goku said, Bring it. I'm not afraid of you. Suddenly, Oolong's finger slips into the hot broth that he had been holding. Ow! Yow! Oolong shouted as his thumb instantly turned red. A kid came up from behind and shot a pebble at the back of Oolong's head. Oolong covered the back of his head and yelled out, Dang kids! Ah! Ow! Goku then realized something. Goku said, You're not as strong as you say you are you? Oolong realized that the jig was up and turned into a bat to fly away. Bulma shouted out, Careful Goku! He's going to get away. Go after him. Goku then shouts out, Flying Nimbus. Once the flying Nimbus had appeared, Goku hopped on and chased after Oolong. Oolong, realizing that the kid could fly, changed into a rocket ship and blasted off as fast as he could go. Faster, Nimbus! Goku shouted. Eventually, Oolong panicked and said, Oh no, my 5 minutes is up. Oolong suddenly transformed into a pig with a military-like uniform on and began plunging hundreds of feet down. Goku went after Oolong and captured him, holding onto his hand while still standing on the flying Nimbus. Goku brought Oolong back to the village, who promptly tied him up in ropes in case he tried to run away. Oolong, who had accepted defeat, didn't hesitate to bring the villagers back to his mansion to show where the girls were. The girls, seemingly perfectly fine and healthy, were all living a lavish lifestyle. One was by the pool, another was working out. Oolong said, Please, take them back. They've become nothing but a nuisance to me. The town, realizing Oolong hadn't harmed their girls, forgave him, and the old woman gave Bulma the 6-starred ball. Bulma then said, Your powers are pretty useful. You're coming along with us. Oolong grumpily said, And if I refuse? Bulma said, Then you'll be answering to Goku here. Oolong swallowed and reluctantly agreed. The next day, the gang approached a lake, and Bulma pulled out one of her capsules, and a boat appeared. They began riding on the boat across the small lake. Oolong looked over and noticed the boat was tilted slightly over to Goku's side. Oolong said, Heh, you seem dense for your size. Goku looked down and said, Huh? Oolong continued, You may want to switch sides with me. How do you weigh so much? Goku switched sides while thinking, suddenly saying, Oh yeah, I have weighted bands on. It doubles my weight to help me train. Oolong looks confused but doesn't question it further. Oolong then asks, So, where are we even heading? Bulma says, Fire Mountain. Oolong says, No, anywhere but there. Aren't you scared of that Ox King fella that guards that mountain? Goku asked, Huh? Ox King? Oolong said, Yes, he'll kill us for sure. Bulma dismissed Oolong by saying, We'll have to take our chances for my wish. Oolong looked confused and asked, Your wish? Bulma said, Don't worry about it. A few hours later, Bulma realized the boat had run out of gas. She asked Oolong, Hey Oolong, do you think you can transform into a tank of gas? Oolong says, Unfortunately not, Toots. It'd be like pouring out my own self. It just wouldn't work. Also, I could only transform for 5 minutes before I transform back. Bulma said, What? Then you're useless. Oolong scoffs, then says, I don't need to take this. He transforms into a fish and jumps into the lake. Bulma says, Goku, quick, after him. Goku jumps off the boat and quickly swims into the water in hopes of finding Oolong. Goku manages to sink faster thanks to the weighted bands, and Goku actually manages to see Oolong and get close to him. But unfortunately, Oolong is too slippery for Goku to capture. Goku then resurfaces for some air. Bulma asked, "Did you get him?" Goku said, "Unfortunately not. He's too slippery." Bulma laughs, then says, "Different fish just need a different type of bait." Bulma pulls out a pair of undergarments and attaches them to a fishing pole and flicks them into the water below. Almost immediately, Oolong latches onto the pair of undergarments, and he is caught once more. Bulma then offers Oolong a piece of candy to satiate his hunger. Oolong obliges and Bulma then asks him to transform into an oar to safely take them onto land. Once there, Bulma realizes that she lost her dino capsules and yells out, "Oh no! I must have dropped them in the lake. We're doomed." Oolong then takes the opportunity to sneak off once again. Bulma then asks, "Hey Oolong, do you—" She is interrupted by Goku, who says, "He's not here." Bulma then shouts out, "Ah, piggy, piggy, piggy." Oolong is then overcome by the strong feeling of needing to use the restroom. Goku then points his power pole at Bulma and says, "You really are a witch, aren't you? You cast a spell on Oolong." Bulma smiles and says, "I'm actually not. If I was, I wouldn't need the Dragon Balls to wish for the perfect boyfriend, now would I?" Oolong then returns, saying, "How did you do that?" Bulma laughs and says, "That candy that you ate? That's my secret recipe. Whenever someone says those magic words, you'll need to use the bathroom. So now you're stuck with us. No trying to get away from us now, you hear?" Oolong grumbles but ultimately agrees. The group decides to trek on foot because neither Oolong nor Bulma can ride the flying Nimbus. The group finds themselves in a desert. After walking for seemingly hours, Bulma says, "I can't take it anymore. I need to take a nap." Bulma then rests under the shade of a giant rock structure. Oolong and Goku look in the distance and notice a motorcycle carrying someone was heading their way. Goku asked, "What's that?" Oolong responded, "Company, not a good sign." A man with long hair and a floating blue cat hop off of the motorcycle, and the man speaks up, "Hand over all your supplies and dino caps and no one gets hurt." The cat speaks in a high-pitched voice and says, "Yeah, do it, or else Yamcha the Desert Bandit will end you." Oolong then tells Goku, Hey, I know that cat. That's Puar. We used to go to Transformation Academy together." Puar notices Oolong, then says, "Oh yeah, that's Oolong. He used to pick on me, steal my lunch money, and call me names." Yamcha smiled and said, "Can't wait to enjoy your downfall for picking on my little friend here, mi amigo." Puar chanted back, "That's right." Oolong shouted out as he ran away, "Get him, kid! Good luck!" Goku stared at Yamcha, then said, "I don't want to fight you, but if you're trying to hurt me or my friends, then I have no choice." Yamcha then unsheathed his sword and threw the scabbard high into the air. Goku's eyes met it, but it was only a distraction. Yamcha came over and punched Goku in the stomach as he attempted to slash away at Goku. Goku managed to dodge it with ease. Goku's stomach began to rumble as he complained, "I'm hungry." Yamcha then charged at Goku once more and punched him extremely hard, causing Goku to get knocked back a tiny bit. Goku took off his weighted bands quickly. Goku then did one final charge and punch. He took off like a speeding bullet and managed to hit Yamcha in the stomach. Yamcha backed away and began to cough. Goku said shakily, Had enough." Bulma then woke up and said, "What's going on?" Yamcha, while still recovering, saw a woman and immediately began blushing. Puar said, "No, Yamcha. He can't handle being around girls. He's too shy," and quickly helped guide Yamcha back to his motorcycle. Yamcha then quickly raced away. Bulma quickly asked, "Who was that hunk of a man?" Goku then fell over extremely hungry. Oolong tried picking up Goku's bands but said, "Holy smokes, these bands are heavier than they look." Oolong slowly laid them on top of Goku. Oolong then got out a small capsule and said, "I forgot I had this, but I'm tired of being out of this heat walking." Bulma said, "You had a dino cap this whole time and didn't think to say anything." She started shaking Oolong as he said, Hey, I forgot about it, all right? Put me down." Oolong threw his capsule down, and out popped a giant bus-like car. The gang all slowly made their way inside to continue on their journey. Goku, Oolong, and Bulma all relaxing inside of Oolong's bus eating dinner. Bulma spoke up. "This doesn't seem like much." Oolong responded, "What? Are you expecting something fit for royalty?" Goku rubbed his belly and said, "Ah, that hit the spot." Bulma then asked if Oolong had a bath, and Oolong pointed her to the direction of the bath. After verifying there are no peepholes, Bulma closes the door. Oolong then asks Goku, who was still sitting at the table, "So, kid, why are we chasing down these orange ball things?" Goku grabbed his 4-star Dragon Ball out of his pouch and said, "You see? These things can grant wishes." Oolong stared in disbelief. "Hey, kid, why don't we just take them all from the girl and wish for some guy things?" Goku tilted his head in confusion and asked, "Guy things?" Oolong nodded and said, "Oh yeah, like a harem with 300 girls." Goku tilted his head once more and said, "Why would you want that many girls?" Oolong asked flatly, "You serious, kid?" Goku responded, "Yeah, imagine having to listen to 300 Bulmas." Suddenly, Goku is struck over the head by Bulma. "How dare you talk behind my back like that, Goku?" Bulma says. Goku began rubbing his head and said, "Oh no, well, never mind," Goku said. Bulma then asked Oolong, "Hey, do you have any pajamas?" Oolong said sarcastically, "Oh yeah, I totally have girl clothes." Bulma groaned and said, "What am I supposed to wear then?" Oolong said, "Not my problem." Oolong then made some juice for Bulma and Goku saying, "Here you go." Bulma said, "Thank you, see? You can be nice after all." Goku takes a sip of the orange-colored juice and says, "Ew, this stuff is yucky." Oolong then said, "Well, it's healthy, it's, well, supposed to make you stronger?" Goku nods in understanding and then says, "Oh well, down the hatch." Goku then realized Oolong didn't have any after he finished his glass and said, "Aren't you going to have any, Oolong?" Oolong stuttered, but after composing himself said, "Oh, I had some already." Bulma then yawned, indicating she was tired. She then went up the stairs to get some sleep as Goku began to fall asleep sitting at the table. Oolong smiled deviously as he began going upstairs. Little did they know, Yamcha was waiting outside for them with Puar. Yamcha said, "Puar, did you hear that? I was originally just going to take their stuff. Get my revenge, you know. But hearing about Dragon Balls has me all fevered up. I can finally wish away my fear of women." Ha 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 ha. Puar happily chimed in with, "Isn't it great, Master? Soon nothing will stop you." Yamcha agreed, then said, "Alrighty, let's ensure that they're asleep, my fuzzy little friend." Yamcha picked the lock on the bus and slowly entered. Scanning his surroundings, he notices Goku asleep wearing the bands he had taken off during their fight. Yamcha whispers to Puar, "Hey, it looks like the rest of them are upstairs. Transform into this kid and lure them outside." Puar said, "Right," as he transformed into Goku. The transformation looked rather silly, though, as the eyes and the hair weren't right. Eventually, Puar transformed as Goku headed up the stairs as Yamcha held the sleeping Goku out of sight. Oolong was just about to peel back the covers on Bulma's bed when he heard a noise coming from downstairs and freaked out. Seeing Goku come up the stairs, he quickly transformed into Bulma. His form of her looked short and fat, but it would have to do. Puar disguised as Goku saw Bulma and asked, "Hey, where's Oolong?" Oolong disguised as Bulma said, "Oh, he went for a walk, I thought." Hey. Puar disguised as Goku had then said, "Well, come outside real quick. There is something that I would like to show you." Oolong disguised as Bulma reluctantly went along with Puar disguised as Goku. Once they left the bus, Yamcha made his move and went upstairs looking for the Dragon Balls. Outside, Puar disguised as Goku dropped the disguise and said, "Aha, tricked you." Oolong disguised as Bulma said, "What?" Puar then said, "Yep, we're here to steal your stuff." Oolong disguised as Bulma dropped his transformation and said, "How's that working out for you?" Puar screamed. Meanwhile, Yamcha saw a blanket covering a bed and pulled off the blankets to reveal Bulma sleeping without a change of clothes. He screamed in a panic and freaked out seeing a woman, especially in such a state as that. Puar outside yelled out, "Oh no, master!" as he flew over to help. Yamcha and Puar quickly made their escape. Morning came, and Oolong was sitting in the driver's seat with a weapon. Goku said, "Good morning, Oolong." Oolong said, "Easy for you to say. I had to fend off Yamcha and Puar again." Goku said, "Yamcha and Puar came back? Are they still here? I've been itching to fight them since our last fight." Oolong said, "Calm down, will ya? I swear, you've got a fist where your brain ought to be." Bulma came down the stairs and asked, "Did you say Yamcha was here? That handsome desert bandit?" Oolong nodded and said, "Also, there's an outfit upstairs, come to think of it." Bulma retorted with, "I thought you said you didn't have any." Oolong said, "Well, I just didn't think you'd like it is all." Bulma grumbled as she went upstairs to put it on. Oolong then went over to brush his teeth and told Goku, "You know, 300 girls might be just a few too many, kid. You were right." Goku laughed and said, "You see?" Bulma then came out wearing a bunny girl costume. She said, "Are you kidding me? These aren't clothes. This is a costume, and I look ridiculous in it, Oolong." Oolong then said dismissively, "Sorry, that's all I have." They finished eating breakfast, and Oolong once again took the wheel to drive the bus. Bulma was putting on her makeup when she said, "Tell me if you see Yamcha." Oolong snorted and sarcastically said, "Yeah, sure. I'll keep my fingers crossed." Suddenly, Goku points out the driver's side window and asks, "Is that him?" Sure enough, Yamcha was back, on a motorcycle holding a rocket launcher. Bulma, oblivious to the dangers that Yamcha is posing on them, gawks at him, calling him a hunk. Yamcha fires a rocket at their bus, causing it to minorly explode and break down in the middle of the desert. Goku gets off the bus and says, "Ready for round 2?" Oolong said, "Be careful, kid." Yamcha puts his rocket launcher aside and says, "I will win this time and take the Dragon Balls." Oolong asks Goku, "Wait, how does he know about the Dragon Balls?" Goku shrugs, but then gets in a fighting stance. Yamcha then charges at Goku and yells out, "Wolf Fang Fist." He lands a few hits on Goku, but Goku manages to block the second part of Yamcha's attack. Yamcha jumped back surprised and said, "No one has managed to guard against my Wolf Fang Fist. What's going on here?" Goku laughed and said, "We fought when my stomach was empty, but now my stomach is full." Goku then ran up and punched Yamcha in the face a couple of times before Yamcha fell backward. Yamcha quickly got up and his cheek was red. Puar screamed and said, "Master, your tooth!" Puar then transformed into a mirror and showed Yamcha that a tooth of his was chipped. Yamcha screamed out, "Ah, how will I ever get girls now?" Yamcha, in a panic, quickly got on his motorcycle and drove away with Puar in tow. Goku and Oolong got off of their bus. Goku picked up Bulma, who had been knocked unconscious from the blast, and began carrying her to their next destination. After a bit, Yamcha had arrived back and said, "Hey!" Oolong said, "Oh no, not him again." Yamcha then said, Hey, take this dino capsule. It was a fair fight. I just want us to get along. Sounds good?" Oolong scoffed and said, "Sounds like Bologna." Goku nods and says, "Thank you." Yamcha and Puar drove off, leaving Goku with a car and a dino capsule. Goku throws the capsule and opens it, causing a red car to appear. Oolong said, "Check it for explosives." Goku said, "I trust him." I think he finally decided to turn good. Oolong said, "It doesn't work like that, kid. Believe me." Eventually, the gang gets all settled into the car, and Oolong begins driving through the desert again. Goku, Bulma, and Oolong are driving along a dirt road when they finally come up to Fire Mountain. Before them stands a giant inferno cascading over a castle. Oolong takes a big gulp, then says, "Yep, that's Fire Mountain. Are you sure we can't just turn back and go home?" Bulma shushes him and says, "Nonsense. I bet it's in the Ox King's castle." Goku hops out of the car and looks up at the mountain. Oolong says, "The Ox King will have our heads. We really shouldn't be going up there. Aren't you scared?" Goku says, My grandpa taught me to be fearless. Oolong says, I think I should get out of here. Bulma cuts him off quickly and says, if you leave now, I will just say, piggy piggy, again, and you'll be on a one-way trip to stomach issues. Oolong groaned and said, fine. Behind them, Yamcha and Puar are waiting for their next move. Yamcha laughs and says, this is perfect. The Ox King will tear poor old defenseless Goku limb from limb, and when that happens, boom. We swoop in and take the Dragon Balls. We'd only need to collect one after that anyway. How hard could it be? Suddenly, a scream is heard from behind them. Upon looking, a girl running from a T-Rex can be seen. The girl then turned around, threw the sharp blade from the helmet she was wearing, and cut the head of the T-Rex clean off. She opened her eyes and saw the beheaded T-Rex and screamed once more. She yelled out, gross, look what I did! You! And then pressed a button on the side of her helmet that caused a beam to fire out, vaporizing the entire T-Rex body. She continued running while crying, running into Yamcha. Yamcha blankly said, hey, good. Job? The girl said, I am not supposed to talk to strangers, and started firing a laser from her hat again. Yamcha dodged the beam and then knocked the girl out, claiming, geez, that girl is dangerous. Puar and Yamcha then leave the girl on the ground, knocked unconscious, and begin their journey up Fire Mountain, following behind Goku and the others. Once Goku and the others made it to the top, Bulma said, it's way too hot here. I can't stand this heat, as flames engulfed everything around them. Oolong said, shh, keep your voice down. I don't want the Ox King to hear us. Bulma looked down at her dragon radar and said, hey Goku, think you could fly up to the castle and get the Dragon Ball? Goku nodded as he yelled out, Flying Nimbus! Oolong said, hey Goku, knock it off, will ya? The Ox King definitely had to have heard that. Goku then flew up above the castle and looked down. Goku said to himself, wow, it sure does feel hot. Well, here goes. Goku plunged down into the inferno on the flying Nimbus, but immediately came back with his tail on fire. Goku yelled out as his Nimbus carried him over a pond where Goku jumped into. Bulma did a quick facepalm and said, ah, the kid is bailing. Suddenly, a giant figure with horns appeared behind Bulma, and Oolong holding a giant axe. He went to take a swing, but just in the nick of time, Bulma and Oolong realized he was there and jumped out of the way. The man bellowed out, my name is the Ox King. Are you guys treasure thieves here to steal treasure from my castle? Bulma raised her hands in denial, while Oolong was frozen in fear. Goku then used his power pole to bring him back over to the group and said, man, it's going to be really hard to get into that castle. Bulma and Oolong screamed as Goku ratted them out. The Ox King then said, I knew it. You're thieves. Goku then said, that's not true at all, sir. The Ox King didn't care and began wildly swinging his axe around. Goku managed to dodge the swings, but it seemed to be a struggle for him. Bulma cheered him on. Get him, kid. Take him down. While Oolong stood still in fear. Goku raised his hand and said, one moment, please, as he started to take off his bands. As he was doing so, the Ox King noticed the power pole on Goku's back and asked angrily, how did you get that? Did you steal that? Goku, having just taken off his weighted bands, leaving them on the ground, said, no, my grandpa gave it to me. Goku then lunged at the Ox King. The Ox King then said, oh, you're Gohan's kid. Just then, Goku punched the Ox King in the stomach, causing the Ox King's knees to buckle slightly, but he managed to stay standing. The Ox King began coughing slightly as Goku looked up at him and said, how do you know my grandpa? The Ox King catches his breath, then says, phew! You pack a punch, kid. Yep, you must be the real deal. Only a punch from Gohan's grandson would be enough to almost bring me to my knees. Goku looks up at the Ox King, still confused. The Ox King opens his mouth once more, then says, your grandpa Gohan used to be my training partner, you know. We both trained under the great Master Roshi. He was Master Roshi's first apprentice, and I happened to be his second. Bulma finally spoke up and said, that pervy old geezer at the beach trained you? The Ox King laughed and said, oh yes, I miss him greatly. Goku then said, I actually got my cloud, the flying nimbus, from him. The Ox King's eyes began to shine as he remembered his master. The Ox King continued, "Ah, I just sent my daughter to find Master Roshi, coincidentally. I'm starting to worry, though, as she has been gone for quite some time. Goku, do you think that you can find her, help her find Master Roshi, and get the Bancho fan? The Bancho fan is the only thing that can put this fire out. Please? If you do, I will let you marry her." Goku looked at the Ox King confused and said, "I mean, I will try my best." The Ox King said, "Really? Her name is Chi-Chi. Here is a picture." Yamcha and Puar, who happened to be hiding, gander at the photo and realized that it was the girl they knocked out. In a panic, they ran away in hopes that the girl would be okay. Eventually, Yamcha makes his way back over to the fallen girl and shakes her until she wakes up. Chi-Chi backs away from Yamcha and puts her hands on her helmet, ready to fire another laser. Yamcha quickly raises his hands and yells out, "No, no, no! Hey, I'm a friend! Chi-Chi, don't fire that laser!" Chi-Chi quietly asks, "How do you know my name?" Yamcha says, well, you see, I'm actually a secret admirer of yours. I, have loved you ever since I laid eyes on you." Chi-Chi begins to blush as she says, "Oh, really? Oh my. I can't believe it. You're the first guy who has ever loved me before." Yamcha then sneaks away while Chi-Chi is having her moment. Shortly after, Goku descended from the sky on his flying nimbus and asked Chi-Chi, "Hey, are you Chi-Chi?" Chi-Chi looked up at Goku and said, "Hey, you're the second boy who knows my name, but I surely don't know who you are." Goku responds with a smile and says, "Oh, your father sent me to look for you and bring you to Master Roshi's so we can get the Bancho fan and you can finally go home." Chi-Chi's eyes lit up as she asked, "Really?" Goku nodded and said, "Mm-hmm. Can you hop on my Nimbus cloud? Only those with a pure heart can ride it." Chi-Chi nods and says, "Oh, don't worry. When you're the daughter of the Ox King, you always behave." Chi-Chi tries to climb up onto the cloud, but she is struggling to get a proper footing. Goku asks her, "Do you need help?" Chi-Chi dismisses Goku's offer with a casual, "No." Just then, Chi-Chi grabbed onto Goku's tail in order to get onto the flying Nimbus. Goku lets out a pained scream as Chi-Chi climbs up on the cloud while pulling on Goku's tail. Goku falls off of the cloud and onto the dirt. Chi-Chi asked, "What just happened?" Goku stuttered out, "My tail? I lose all of my power whenever somebody grabs my tail." Chi-Chi apologizes but shyly looks away. Goku then climbs back on the Nimbus and says, "Hang on tight, this cloud moves fast. Go flying Nimbus." And with that, Goku and Chi-Chi are on their way looking for Master Roshi. Thank you guys for watching part 5 of this What If. Goku was able to bring the Ox King to his knees, almost in this part. Which is extremely impressive considering Goku's attacks were ineffective in the original. They didn't even tickle the Ox King when Goku attacked. But in this one, Goku's power level is about 43 in this one so far, and the Ox King is to be believed to have a casual power level of 60. We haven't really seen the Ox King go full out though, but Goku probably would not have won that fight, but it was sure interesting once the Ox King let his guard down that Goku was able to get a hit in. Alrighty, see you guys in the next one. See you around.